And okay, you're ready to go.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Thank you, Deb. So I'll jump into the opening statement. The commission operates under the authority granted to it by Harpers Ferry Ordinance 131 as set forth in West Virginia Code, Article 8-26A-4. The qualifications of the commission members are on file with the town and are hereby made a part of the record of each and every action of the commission at today's meeting. The basis of commission administrative approval for or recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals is the Harpers Ferry Historic District Standards and Guidelines. They are hereby made a part of the record of each and every action of the commission at today's meeting. Each application heard today is considered on its own merits and is not to be considered as establishing a precedent for any other application. Now, if we don't have any applications on the agenda, do we have to read the whole thing? Is that just a best practice? That's a question maybe for you. Hey, forgot to say hello to you, Christian, and you're on mute.
Christian, you're muted.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay. What's the question?
Should we just be reading that whole statement, even if we don't have people, applying or for guidance?
Yeah, if you don't need to read it all, I have to. But you do have to read the other part having to do with we're meeting Open Meetings Act. Oh, shoot, I left my file.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. I do not. Does anybody have the agenda in front of them?
I do.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Karen.
And it should be attached to the email that I sent.
Yeah.
I'd have to
I got
scroll
it.
down to the first time I sent it, but it should be there.
Okay, great. Because yeah, what is the first thing? Review minutes.
Well, on the agenda, you do need it. Did you read the? Hang on. The part that says until further notice.
No, I didn't. That needs to be read.
Yeah, that has to be read every meeting.
All right. Well, Karen, would you like to read that out since you say you have the agenda?
Sure. Until further notice,
Great.
the Corporation of Harpers Ferry governing and deliberative bodies will hold meetings and/or hearings virtually via Zoom webinar, which provides for public participation during a public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda. Alternatively, the public may watch meetings by YouTube video live stream or listen by telephone. These options comply with the Open Government Meetings Act.
Perfect.
Thank you, Karen. So I think that works. And did everybody have a chance to look at Karen's minutes? I thought they looked good for me for our regular meeting held in December.
Yeah. Oh, well, first, before we do that, we have to do item 1, which is approval of the agenda.
Fair enough.
Does anybody want to change the agenda? And do you have any announcements?
Well, actually, I forgot to add a line item for, I guess I was told election of officers needs to take place, but does that need to be an agenda item? Or is that just internal housekeeping?
I think you got to have it as an agenda item. That would be my opinion.
And anyway, we only have 3 of us. We're missing Tommy. Is Steve there?
Yeah, I'm here on the phone.
Oh, okay, on the phone. Okay, so we have 4 of 5. Yeah, I think we do have to put on the, usually in January, it comes up the first meeting of the year.
Fair enough.
But I think you need an agenda item, so you'll have to catch it in February.
Fair enough. Okay, that was the only thing I thought that I missed for the agenda. So what do we need? A motion?
Well, would you, yeah, does anybody want to like change the order? That's usually, you can't add anything to the agenda, but you can, if somebody wants to put something in a different order. If not, we'll just approve the agenda as is. I'll just say, I move to approve the agenda as is.
Sure. I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
I think that's unanimous. Okay. So can we move forward to a vote on the minutes?
Yep.
All right. So if everybody had a chance to review, I'd motion to approve the minutes for our December 20th meeting. All those in favor?
Second.
Okay, second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I think, Karen, are you supported, obviously? So I think motion.
Yeah,
Okay, then motion is approved. And public comments. I don't think we have any public comments today. So do we just move on?
Yeah, I can tell you from experience in doing lots of meetings, I can't even remember the first time we've had comments in the past year from anything that I've been on.
If we had received any requests for public comment, I would have been alerted by the clerk position today. So the answer is no for today.
No.
Okay. Then moving on to discussion and action, new business. And this is maybe a recap to something that's been going on for, well, a couple months last year. That was Barbara Hume's home, 670 East Ridge Street. Is everybody familiar with this house? I don't know. I've tried to keep people in the loop on the email. You know, we have maybe Steve and Karen, are you guys familiar with this house? It's a California style ranch house.
Is that the one with the solar panels, 1950s?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I am.
Yeah. So I've been reviewing that with the historian from the state in December. I was exchanging emails discussing that, and it's our call what we want to do here. The exact build date on this building, on the home, is a bit unclear. Barbara claims that it was built in or before 1958, which is the current period of significance as per the National Register of Historic Places for our historic district. So there are other criteria, such as does the design of the property fit the character of the context of its surroundings. So that's something that the historian, he and I were chatting about this, it's something for us to consider, because it's something they would consider in evaluating our nomination if we want to nominate this home for addition to the historic register. So that's one of the things I'd like to see what people think about that. I had reached out to Barbara with this feedback from the West Virginia SHPO, and I have not heard from her. I think the key information we're looking for is more clear evidence that the home was built in or prior to 1958. And I had tried to do a little research on my own to help, just looking through newspaper archives, because sometimes homes are mentioned in the newspapers when they're built, but I couldn't find anything around those dates. So, I mean, there are other ways to look at the materials of the home, inside the wiring, for example, to try to date the home, but I haven't heard back from her if she's been able to make any progress. But that said, I think it raises an interesting question about what do we think about that style of home? Certainly not fitting with the majority of the homes that we have in the town, which are primarily federal, Victorian, arts and crafts. Those are really seem to be the main periods for the town. So I wanted to get council member input. What do my colleagues think about this property?
Well, I mean, this is
some kind of thought as to not only this property, but going forth in the future when other properties come up, looking at how we're going to handle this in general. I think definitely having more concrete documentation for the date is important, but I'm not sure about how to handle the style. And I think if we set a precedent now, we have to understand how we're going to set that precedent in the future.
So my understanding is that the houses are nominated because they support one of the themes in the historic nomination, and we had a theme for arts and crafts. We have a theme for the Armory period. We have a theme for Storer College. I don't know what architectural theme this house would fit in, because it's later than arts and crafts. And I think that it would be a question, Guy, is whether working with the historic office in SHPO is, can we add a theme, and what would it be for mid-century modern and later?
Yeah.
I think that's the problem I see, is that it's a mid-century modern home.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we would justify it as having historic context, because that's what the themes define in the nomination charter.
Yeah. And I think that's where the historian, where his perspective was, that basic right along those lines, is that this is not fitting with the historical context of the town or the block. So the question is, do you make an exception for a unique property that was built during this period? The first of its kind of historic moment that somebody would have built this home here. And I think maybe Barbara was making an argument that it's one of the first places outside of California where this style of home was being built, and here it was built in Harper's Ferry.
Okay,
so
that's architecturally significant, but it would need documentation.
Yeah.
I think that would be noteworthy. And to Karen's point a minute ago, I think that would also help distinguish this nomination from future ones where just any house, mid-century house, gets kind of added, automatically. Because I don't think that's the intent of historic nominations or preservation. It's not like houses just age into it when they're old enough. They have to have some features.
Yes, and that was the other part of the discussion that I clarified with our historian at the state, was the not to automatically consider homes over 50 years to be nominated, but that really to consider 1958 more of a firm cutoff for the historical themes of the town, and that date coinciding with the closure of Storer College in 55.
55.
55. So does that make sense to everybody?
It does, but I would think it shouldn't be on us, the burden to prove this. This should be on the burden should be on the homeowner.
Sure.
And then we could verify and then present to SHPO.
Yep.
Yes. I think the homeowner has to do the research and bring the package to the council, to the commission.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I think there needs to be clear points that it's not just any house in a style will qualify if it's old enough. I mean, there are other things newer that have been built to look old. that wouldn't necessarily qualify in 10 years or 15 years, because they're new construction. They're not historic homes. But in any of those cases, I think the homeowner would have to be doing the research and bringing the evidence and the package and the justification.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to find out on that note soon. I'll probably check in with Barbara, see how she's doing, because that's basically what I said. I tried to do some help, but then, if she wants to have somebody come look at the wiring and look at whatever paperwork she can find, then I'm happy to try to help. But that's
what about
we're
the
going to
deed
need to
being
see.
recorded? Wasn't there a deed recorded at the county?
Yeah,
So they have the
right. I think the property deed, I'm not sure she had that in hand, but that's another thing to check into, whether that was what those dates say.
right. I mean, there'd be a chain of title, and then possibly census records would be showing, years of improvement if it was a vacant land before that.
Right. The appraisals, right?
Yeah, there's appraisals and then there's a
Taxes.
census, the actual census tract.
Yeah.
The two talks about when lots or addresses are improved.
Yep. And then the other thing too is I lived in Southern California a long time, and I'm not sure I've seen quite a house quite like hers out there. They have more. I guess I'm used to seeing in San Diego County. A lot of the houses are, I don't know, they're like mid 50s, 60s. They got a lot more ornamentation, a lot more like windows with portholes, and they'll have like a little more flourishes in the.
Right.
Her house is really plain, real plain. I'm not saying it's not California, but we're really taking her word for it, and we need her to do the research.
Yeah.
I've not seen a home quite like that in California, honestly. From my experience.
Yeah. No. Good to know. And I think that's what the historian was saying, is it's going to be a tough sell, and I think maybe Barbara is seeing that too. So we'll find out what she says. But yeah, if it comes up, that's what he said. It's going to need to be a very strong argument that this is really kind of revolutionary for West Virginia, that this was the first, home of its kind of message.
Yeah.
Like my home, like with architect plans, I think you would need an architect, like a California architect and builder that you've got proof evidence.
Yes. You got to see a link. You can't just say it's a California design. You got, what's it linked to in California?
Yeah. What's the provenance, like the evidence that you're making a claim on?
Well, it's like my house. When I purchased it, I didn't know what it was. And the realtor told me I have a Victorian house. So I took his word for it. It was advertised as a Victorian. Well, my house is an American Foursquare. After I lived in it and I've researched it, the realtor was off.
Yes, so, that's right. I've been digging deep enough into the historic record for the town that, you're absolutely right. American Foursquare architecture. It's a great example. Okay, so I don't think, there's no vote, I think, on Barbara's nomination request, but just to keep that in mind, and we'll see if she decides to move forward. But it's good to think about.
We can make a motion that that the owner do the research, and we ask her to present it back to it, bring it back to us.
Yeah. Okay. I think that makes sense.
So So I'm going to make a motion. Steve, you want to make it?
Guys, before we do this as a one-off, should there be something in our published guidance to homeowners, about this? Are we making a motion to add some standing documentation? or are we doing a one-off for Barbara? Because it seems like
you're probably right. We probably need to have some sort of maybe we need to not do anything at this time. Think about a policy for the future, not doing an emotion right at this moment. We got to think about it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be hamstrung by doing a motion we're going to regret later.
Correct. Oh, I've done those.
Yeah. And there's actually, in the back and forth between me and the historian, there's some good, I think, information about that. Like what are the criteria? I know these, there's like 3 different criteria, right? The period, the context, architectural significance, and then, did someone famous live there or create it, or did something notable happen there, right? There are these kinds of, so you can make a case for your property based on any or all of these factors. And then that's, I guess, how they do a weighted assessment of what to approve is based on those criteria.
So if we can work those out, then we can present that back to Barbara or anybody who asks in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that it should almost be on our website as guidance.
Yes.
For residents saying if your house isn't listed, this is the criteria and what you got to put together to put a package.
Good idea.
Yeah. And that's actually in the email correspondence I had with Barbara was that criteria. And of course she responded to it as, with the evidence that she had, which except for the build date, she didn't have the build date or kind of evidence of the build date, but she made an argument for the person who made the design. And it's just, I think the historian was not, he was not seeing it rise to the level of significance that they would look for. So I think that's where I'll have to go back and I'll read through the emails to see if he provided any, I can't remember his exact wording. So I'll prepare that for next time.
Yeah. I also would say there should be some examples in the East Coast. I mean, not just her house, but how do we know it's not a custom house?
Yeah.
How do we know it's a style out here? I don't know.
Yep. Were you going to say something else, Steve?
No, I was just thinking that having that examples or some careful language on the criteria that the package isn't enough, that it has to rise to some threshold of merit, or significance. I think we'll have to be careful and actually probably have the state check our language on that.
Yeah.
So that we're aligned with state practice.
Yep.
Right. And we can then lean on state practice if we have to say no. That it's not us to decide unilaterally. I mean, we're part of the state agency in doing this, right?
Correct.
We're the local arm of that. So I think that's a place we really want them to look over our what we're going to put out and make sure that it's considered. I think that'll just keep us in a defensible position.
Yep.
And not going off the reservation.
Okay. So all right, then I'll take that as an action for myself to create that and then propose it at our next meeting.
Okay.
Skip it to us a little early and then we can noodle it through, each of us individually, and then we can hammer out the final.
There you go. All right. That sounds good. The next one, the CLG Survey and Planning Grant. This is money that West Virginia SHPO had left over. This popped up, I guess, after our last meeting, or right around the time of our last meeting. And it's like quick turnaround kind of grant. The actual application was due, I think, Friday, and I just submitted it for the printing of a booklet that we would hand out to residents, essentially a printing of the Harpers Ferry Historic District properties that are in the National Historic Register. And that was my suggestion for them, because that's what they're looking for. I think that's what they're seeing statewide, are trying to help residents better appreciate what is the history, what makes a historic property. And I think we're one of the more, if not the most, historic towns in the state. So within our district, we have a lot of historic properties that have been documented. So that's what I submitted a request for, and I was actually going to deposit the matching funds myself. I think we could get several, booklets printed for less than $1,500, and it's a 30% match for CLGs. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. They're looking for that kind of project. Like, what are we going to do to educate homeowners about the history of the town, the structures, make them better aware of what is historic, and to inspire them to maintain, but also maybe restore historic edifices. So I could circulate that, of course, with everyone. And I've been actually documenting converting all of the properties from the historic register into a couple Google Map layers. I'm happy to show that at the next meeting when we get together. I'm probably 75% of the way through that, to where, you can look at a map and you can see all of the properties, their exact entry in the National Historic Register, as well as a picture of the home, just focused on the architecture. What year was the property, was the structure built? What styles are notable? And maybe also what has been done that's not period, because we actually have a lot of federal homes that have had Victorian features applied to them. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on architecturally in Harpers Ferry, right? Like a lot of mixing of the architectural styles, and just something that can start to help explain things. So that's my thought. So I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything about that. If that's, you think that's a good idea, or not.
I think it's a good idea, but I'm wondering if this whole thing should be on the internet. I mean, and somehow we do a more of a explanation piece telling people where to go. Because it wouldn't be live if you're printing it. It's going to change. I mean, as soon as we print it,
Yeah,
there's going to be a lot of changes. Or when that gets out to people, people are going to go, like, mine's incorrect. There's a lot of errors on my house.
Well, that's so. Guy, are you following the national details or the town details? Because, like I said on our last call, we couldn't change the national register without reopening it for potential removal. So we just left everything on the town version, which is on the website, and that's where we tried to fix all the errors in the descriptions. But it's probably needs to be updated because it's coming on 10 years old now.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm seeing. I'll tell you, like, I'm seeing a lot.
But you're working
of
from the
errors.
online version. Yep.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of errors, and in fact, I mean, there are properties. I think there are properties that have been removed since, I think the last
You're
time
looking at the 2010 survey.
Yes, that's right.
And there's still a lot of errors, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell, like, with the dates, a lot of the dates on the homes, like, I can tell, for example, our Black History Walking Tour guide has more precise construction dates. I mean, we're talking like decades more precise than almost every home that's listed in the register.
Okay.
And then, in fact, I was going to see if I can. Let me know if you can see my screen. I'm trying to share my screen.
No, I can't because I'm on a phone. That's
Okay. Or maybe Christian, can you see my screen?
I can see it.
Okay, so for example, I broke these out. I'll remove, any property that's listed on the National Historic Register is in here. And I separated it by pre-war and post-war.
Oh,
And
good.
then they're just several that are, a couple that are just unknown, like down here in downtown. So maybe what I can do is share this link with the members to take a look, take a look through the information. I think the homes on the Black History Walking Tour are maybe the most interesting, because that's where I'm noticing like a lot of differences, like major differences between kind of the construction dates and that kind of information versus, because the Black History Walking Tour was created just within the past couple of years, right?
Last year. I mean, it's a year old, and plus they did a lot of research
Right.
on the owners, and that's why
Right.
they probably got some pretty accurate information about the house.
Yeah. So I think that would be, I think it makes sense for us to go through that. So what I'm including in here is for those homes that are on the walking tour, I've got the register information and then the walking tour information, both kind of side by side. And then, maybe people can take a look and see how we, get to the point where what updates do we want to request for the register. And we're probably going to need to source. I don't know. Does anybody have access to the actual source information that was done for the walking tour?
Storm has got it, I believe.
Okay, so he knows if like a build date is 1898, where that came from, because it's not always listed on the walking
He
tour.
put together the entire, well, there was a lot of people involved, by the way, but I believe he was involved in the graphics and putting together the map itself, brochure map.
Cool. So let's see. I think this is your house, Christian, right?
Yes.
So this is what I'm trying to do for every property in the historic record. Click on a button.
Right.
You got the date. So actually, the register says your house was built in 1900, circa 1900.
Well, that's incorrect. Yeah.
Yeah. So your house is a good example. 1900, and I believe the walking tour says it's 1927.
That's when it was built. Yeah. I went down there to the courthouse and looked up the tax records on the house. I mean, I have copies.
All right. So there you go. So your house, and just like you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah. The property was purchased by the first owner in 1914, but he didn't build it until 1927.
There you go. So that's just the way I'm doing the labels too. It's year built, style, and then builder. And I believe Saunders is the person who built your house.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then in the description, this is the historic record description, and then it moves into the walking tour description. So that's what I've been trying to pull together, just as a project. And I think like this kind of thing where people trying to become more familiar with what style is my house, what style are my neighbors' houses, what is historically significant, right? What is a contributing feature? Trying to help, facilitate that knowledge. And, Google Maps is one way we can do that. You can, if we just wanted to look at pre-war homes, right? Very easy to do that. So anyway, like I said, I'm about maybe 75, 80% there. And maybe next time we get together, it'll be the full list of homes.
I was thinking.
So I think it's a great idea what you're doing, Guy, and the budget you were talking about, like $1,500 or something like that from the state, seems like that could certainly go into production of a digital version of this material. So whether it's PDF or something that's databasey, like Christian was saying, I mean, I don't think the money is lost because you could have a high quality online presence for it too.
Yeah. No, yeah, and that's, I'm wondering too, what they think, because I'm happy to do this just, pro bono for the town. I think it's, it's a good thing to have. And, is it for homeowners? Are they more likely to look at this if it's in a, printed copy that we hand out to them? Because that's also what they're looking for us to do, is to hold some workshops at, virtual workshops for homeowners, where we talk about the different periods, architectural styles, contributing features. Right. So that was the other thing. Like, they're being graded on that. And so they want to grade us on the same thing that they're being graded for. Are we gonna hold some workshops this year where residents, where we help educate residents? So I'm happy to do that. I'm wondering, is anybody else interested in being a part of that process of doing like a virtual workshop for homeowners?
Yeah, I would be interested in helping with that.
I think that's really cool. I mean, I think this is a live thing, and I think when you have the homeowners, maybe, I don't know, that gathering I think would be a cool idea. I don't know if we could do it, but it would be cool. The different periods, and break it up into not one big one for the town, but like, pre-Civil War and this and that. So I'm sure there's homeowners that would be very interested in being educated, but then they can educate us too about things that they know.
Right.
The property.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would be helpful, because there are so many inaccuracies, like with the dates. Like, look, the build date for your home was off by almost 30 years. And
right.
I'm seeing a lot of those kinds of gaps. So yeah, clearly there's a lot of information missing. We're missing a lot of builder information. For the majority of the homes on the record don't have the builder information. So I could keep plugging away on that, but I think it's a good foundation, certainly for whatever we do, and work out an agenda for like a workshop, virtual town hall workshop for homeowners to become more familiar with the history of the town architecturally.
Yeah. And this could be a thing too, where we could actually do a directed mailing to these particular owners that we want to reach. Let's say you want to do pre-Civil War, so we could just focus on those homeowners and, actually send them a letter. I mean, the newsletter, I just don't know if people are really reading it. I mean, that's one form of communication, but I think a direct mail, or even going to their door and saying, hey, on this date, we're going to have a forum or seminar.
I think a letter is perfect, because you send it to them. You can give them the link to what we've collected so far. You can encourage them to do some research or bring questions, or, error correction, about their house, and then say you're part of this like narrative theme or this historical interval, or, kind of like who else is going to be there, and then try to keep it small, and then maybe have someone from the state also there to talk about the things like, support, defining features, architectural features, and kind of the appeal to look for things that could be restored.
Yes.
And then they might be there to even talk about programs and the state grants that do this, if there's.
No, and exactly. And one of the things I was going to do, I was going to see if I could convince, once I get everything that's in the historic record digitized on this map, I was hoping to convince Peter Dessauer to drive around with me and just, point at the property, or even do it virtually. And maybe we should capture this, because he's such a great resource. But he can look at every home and he can say, this is what that is, and this is what they changed, and this is what they could do to make it more historic, to restore it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would love to get some time with him, and maybe even just focus on what he thinks the most important kind of, or the greatest opportunities for improvement That's one thought I had.
Good thought, yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's a great idea.
And then I'm just, Christian, I know, hey, Steve, I know you can't see this. Maybe I'll send it to you after, but like, I'm putting these, there's some homes, I have no idea where these homes are. This is one, Steve, it's 109 Potomac Street down by you. There are a couple homes down here that are in the register and I have no idea. I have no idea what to talk.
Is 109 Potomac, well, I don't know if that's right, but would that be down by across from the train station?
Further down, closest to the point. That
Oh.
line of homes on Potomac Street, closest to the point. Like the description here is armory house, stucco wood exterior, metal roof. There's no wood. There are no wood houses down there. I think 100 to 110 is that block, kind of across the street from the John Brown obelisk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it'd be like the White Horse Tavern, or not. What is the tavern? It's a museum now, but what is the? That's around 100 or something in that block. So maybe that was indexed before the Park Service took it over.
Maybe, but they're like those two buildings, the tavern and the other one is the Meriwether Lewis.
Oh, that's right next to it.
Right. Yeah, those are one's
But those
brick.
those are federal properties. I mean, they're not
Yeah.
Harper's Ferry properties, but they are Harper's Ferry, but they're owned by the
But they're in the
federal
town. So they're probably on the register because they would be contributing structures in the town,
Yeah.
just like the church. You know, is a
Yep.
contributing structure along.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm planning to bring up next time is there are some of these like phantom buildings that I can't tell where they are because there are no on that block. I don't see any wood structures. And then there's another one like that, like a garage that I think it's on the historic register and it looks like maybe somebody demolished it in their backyard.
Oh,
Yeah.
The garage that's across from Pat Morris, because that structure is a garage right on High Street.
This one I'm thinking about is Carriage House on McDowell Street.
Oh,
okay. Well, there's a few buildings there like that.
Yeah, but I think this one is gone.
Oh,
So actually, I was going to go and take a look.
I love
but-
our garages. I don't want to lose one garage. We got the most cool garages.
Right. Yeah. So I'll
Really?
double check. I'll double check that, but I'm realizing, if we don't kind of keep tabs on these things, maybe they just start disappearing.
Yeah. There's another thing too. We found the records are pretty good on Lower Town, or at least photographs. We have barely any photographs of Camp Hill structures. It is
Yes.
just a strange thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if you could see these additional, because I was doing so much research on the Weaver properties. That's how I started building this map. I was coming across so many golden nuggets while I was working on that's where I started adding them to this map layer. So I break it out into its own layer, kind of like perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you see this view?
Yeah.
And what I was hoping to do is grab some of these kind of rare older photos, and include links to the high resolution imagery, and even like paintings, So this is an interesting view of like over the Ridge Street.
Mm-hmm.
And you could like see it at that time. So just another map layer, but to capture some of these views for people who are interested in seeing what did my house look like during the Civil War?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Also, we always talk about Lower Town and Camp Hill, but we also have some properties over in the like the Craven House on because I had a neighbor of that property was very concerned that we didn't care about that property. And I said, well, no, we do.
Yeah,
That's
well-
on West Ridge.
No, that's a good point. I mean, like one of the homes across from you. Yeah, I was just reading about that house today. Hold on, let me add that map layer. So we went from, let's see, this is you, right?
Yep. That
Oh,
cottage is still standing, the one that you just hit. Yeah, that cottage is still there.
right, but there's one over there that is, I believe, gone.
Yeah, it was demolished 2 years ago. Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Kind of should never have got to the condition it got into.
yeah.
But, and I don't think it really went through full process. I don't even think Historic Landmarks was aware that it was being demolished.
Right. And there's one other one that kind of concerns me along similar lines. And you had mentioned this property to me, and I didn't realize it's the oldest home kind of on the west part of town.
Yes, that's it right there. Yep, that's
Yeah.
it. That's a
Yeah.
cool place. It's
Yeah,
still a privately held house.
Are you familiar, Steve, this home, it's a log cabin, 1790 over by Lavender Farm?
I don't know it.
Maybe- or
No.
Karen, are you familiar with this property?
I'm familiar with the property and the owners and the family. Yeah, this is something I'm interested in.
Yeah, so clearly, yeah, Christian, you had mentioned this being, I thought you had mentioned that this was one of the oldest structures in town. And I think you're darn right. It's right there in terms of date with like all of the properties downtown, right? I mean, Steve, are you aware of any properties older than 1790 in Lower Town?
No, I mean, I think the foundation of my house was 1790-ish.
Yeah.
And probably the Harper House itself, the
Right.
oldest version of that is probably, contemporaneous with that.
1782.
Yeah, those are the only ones that I know of personally.
Yeah, because Wager House came much later. But I feel like this is the kind of conversation we should be having on a regular basis, like looking at kind of like the properties that are at risk and thinking about that, because after the Weaver House, it certainly feels like this one should be a priority.
That's an African-American property that belongs to the Reeler family. And I do have a little bit of history on that, but Lloyd lives right across the street. That was his parents and his grandparents. So we still have a direct connection with getting history on that house.
Yeah, living history. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Well,
lives right across the street. Yeah, people have wanted to purchase it from him, and but he will not sell. So
So is that in the same family?
yes,
Yes, it is.
Wow. Okay. Well, what a story. There's, I don't know. So do you have a relationship with this person, Karen?
I do. We're good friends with Lloyd, and we're good friends. Sharon next door is his cousin. So this was all family property up here on Putnam, and it's African-American family property. It's connected to those houses, the two greenhouses down on West Ridge. Those were originally Spriggs property. So the two far toward East Ridge.
Here?
Yeah, those two. They trace back to the Spriggs family, and those are cousins to the Reelers.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, there's a ton of money for African American historic preservation right now. So I mean, this is like perfect candidate for preservation. So if you have a relation there, maybe, I'm not sure what do we do if we want to help somebody? Is it historic? We should be reaching out to try to help this family preserve this property. So maybe Steve, any thoughts? What's our best way to do that? invite them
No, I don't.
to a meeting to discuss?
Yeah, invite them to a meeting. That's perfect. This is a perfect example.
Yeah, I mean, it might be one that you'd want to actually facilitate with the state SHPO, so they could give the authoritative answers on programs. And what I can't speak for the state with confidence about what programs or opportunities there are for support.
Well, one of the things, Steve, I've learned is on SHPO, because the property next to mine, Pete Murphy's house, Ben and Roberta Mead applied for a SHPO grant, and they were denied. And basically, they were kind of led to believe that the state is trying to preserve buildings first, and that's roofs. So they're focused on that, and that house did not have a roof problem, though they have changed the roof to standing seam. But this current house here, I don't know how bad. I don't know if the roof's leaking. The one we're looking at.
I can tell you part of that structure is actually falling in. It's not too far behind the Weavers when you look at the side of it. If you were to look at around the side, he's got lots of no trespassing signs up because people stop and try and go in this house all the time, and it's not structurally sound.
Yeah.
So there might be considerations with the ability to be able to to stabilize this house, but yeah, if you look around the sides and the back, it is structurally unsound. So I'm not sure what kind of monies that would be looking at to rebuild or to save it.
Well, I think the money is definitely there. As long as it's still standing, that's the key thing. If it collapses, then you start to get into trouble. That's why the Weaver house is in such a delicate phase as well, because like the porch is starting to collapse, but the main structure is standing, and that's really the test. The National Park Service is not going to rebuild anything, but they will restore. Preserve something that's standing is worth having incremental restoration of the bad parts to continue helping it stand. So,
Have a conversation with the realtor family and maybe get some pictures. Ask to get permission to take pictures all the way around the house and talk to Lloyd about.
Well, you also need more history on the house and documentation.
I can get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And proof that it is that old. Somebody told me this. That doesn't mean it's a fact.
Right. Somebody must have, if it's in the National Historic Register as circa 1790, doesn't that mean, where does that date come from? Does that mean somebody did the research around like what paperwork is there, or did a structural engineer take a look at the property? Maybe, Steve, do you have any idea how do the dates that are listed in the National Historic Register, how are those verified? Are they coming from us?
They're not verified. I think those were architect guesses based on when styles were popular and what they knew about the development and the growth of the town. So I don't think that anything there is heavily researched. And my understanding of at least the first one, the 1980 version, and even in 2010, all the architects do is do a visual survey. And so they're basing construction dates off of popularity of like when different styles were popular, and if it's Victorian, it couldn't be before, such and such date.
Right.
And then other things were circa just because they were guessing.
So that's a good point. That's why one of the things I was tempted to start doing, and I think what I will do is for a lot of these dates that are really questionable, I'll put a C in front of the date so that we know it's circa. And then once a date is verified, I'll add a link to the source information, or at least, like reference information. So we know that this is a confirmed build date.
Yeah. I can tell you how it worked on my house. And when I went to the courthouse and we looked at the tax, that's where you go in the tax books.
Yeah.
You can tell the value of the property when it was just property or land And then you can see the next year, it's all of a sudden it's gone up a ton. And
Well-
that meant they built a house.
Well, that's a great question because I've been told that those dates can be way off, but I'm looking for somebody to tell me how accurate are those dates, the assessor dates?
Well, they
Who
aren't.
said they were off?
Who said they were off?
Yeah.
The assessor. I went down there to do exactly that for the Weaver House. And I've also, I know some of the archaeologists who have done work here and just have mentioned that, tax records, assessor records, they can be off by years. But maybe,
Well-
I'm looking.
Maybe on those real old ones, but I think anything newer, like my house, come on, they want to make tax money. They're not going to let
Exactly.
somebody build a building and not tax them.
Yeah.
It certainly puts a ceiling date. It's not going to be any later than that.
Correct.
It
That's
could be
correct.
earlier.
It may be earlier, but right.
Okay.
That's true.
Okay, good. Anyway, all right. So didn't mean to take up that much time, but that's what I've been working on. So if anybody has any thoughts, advice, guidance on how to make this better, that's next time. I think it'll be more complete, and there are a lot of interesting insights I think that kind of come from being able to look at a map like this and see the different dates. So, what was I going to say? Where were we in the agenda?
We're going on number 3.
Yeah. So I guess not, and I'll circulate that application that I submitted to see what people think and then see if there are any suggestions. It's going to be at least a couple months before, they let us know if they like the idea and want to give us money to do something like that. But yeah, number 3, African-American Heritage Action Fund grant. Yes. So this is, there's again, several of these grants around to do something exactly like we were discussing with the Weaver property as well as Boundary Street Wayside. So the question is, do we want to start applying for these grants to do a joint kind of message description, and how do people feel about that, to start applying for money to do that, combine the two messages into one sign?
Yeah.
Can you say that again? To combine 2 messages into one sign?
Well, the story of the Weaver property story with the story of the Boundary Street.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And how we
You don't
how we
think there's
connect-
enough there to make it separable and unique to stand alone as a second sign?
Well, certainly. I mean, we were talking about doing just a standalone boundary sign for Boundary Street.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, does that? Yeah, that is the question. Would we want two side by side signs, or one sign that talks about both things?
Well, I looked at the property the other day, and the park, which was the ladies' club, the women's club's park, which is no longer the women's club, by the way. The town it's all under the town's control now. The very end of that park is where you'd have to put the sign. So or an interpretive sign. That's what it really is now, because we moved from a marker to a interpretive sign. There's not a lot of room to put 2 signs. If it were off to the side in the middle of the park, yeah, there's plenty of room. But if we want to be in front of, like, remember when David was telling us about the sign, that you would read the sign and then look up, and then you would look down Boundary. The only place you're going to have that view is from the end of the park.
Yeah,
The boundary view.
The Boundary view, and that's also the Weaver view.
Okay.
Because the Weaver's on the left side of the street, or the east side, left side, So that's kind of where I think you could probably do a combination. We might even been able to find a picture we could ever find a picture of that house,
Yeah.
the road will be in it.
I'll tell you, I've been looking, it's kind of like finding pictures of my house. It's one of the properties, it's a very hard view to find in the popular images. I can't wait to find an archive that has pictures of like my side of Fillmore Street and this down by that area down by Town Hall, what that area looked like, because it was kind of a gully. So there's tons of pictures that overlook that gully, but not a lot at street level.
Yeah.
But who knows the thumbnail history on Boundary Street, why it's significant? My understanding, I can't, I think I read the book when I first moved to town and how there was conflict between like a worker culture in Bolivar and Harper's Ferry, but somebody correct me here. Does anybody know more about?
No, that's true. And that is the road is the actual boundary of the two towns.
Yeah. And that's why there's a statue of Simon Bolivar in Bolivar. It's like workers' rights. Kind of was that the reasoning behind why Bolivar is separate from Harper's Ferry? And
no, because Bolivar's separate because it wasn't federal property. Harper's Ferry was federal property. And so the workers, when they needed to live in town, they lived, if they weren't part of the armory, like in the military part where the armory houses, they were over in Bolivar. That's where they lived. And then after the Civil War, they sold the property in Harper's Ferry to private people.
Got it. So this side of Boundary Street was all federal property.
Correct. All of it.
Well, except for the wager reservation in the lower town, there's 40 acres that they kept that the federal government did not own.
Okay.
So see, I guess that's what I was trying to figure out is what's the connection between that Weaver property and Boundary Street? So I guess the connection is Civil War happens and now people are able to buy property on that side of
correct
Boundary Street. So
yep.
Yeah, the Weavers would not have been able to buy that property before the Civil War.
Right.
So what do people think about, I mean, is that enough for people here to say, yeah, we can do one sign that kind of speaks?
Well, I think that's what David, well, at least when David was talking about, he wasn't talking about the Weaver House, but the retired Park Service, the guy who actually makes these signs for the park. He said it's quite a story to explain the difference in the town. It's why it's set up. Why is Bolivar there? Isn't it all Harper's Ferry?
Yeah, and I need to reread that as well, that history, because I know there was a lot of conflict.
And yes, and Bolivar's named after, they wanted to be called Washington, but the name was already taken.
Yeah.
And remember, it was they were in Virginia at the time, not West Virginia. And they wanted a name of a liberator, and that was Bolivar.
Right. Yes. I remember that.
South America.
So what, Karen, I think, Christian, then I'm on board with one sign talking to both topics. Is anybody opposed?
I'm not opposed.
I'm not opposed.
Okay. So what do we do here? Because that's what I think we should apply for a grant to win money to create this thing.
Well, let's do that, but also the town has designated some funds for this. What I think we have to do is, remember, we tried to put it out on bid. It appears we had trouble with that because there are not many outfits that do this kind of work. And I think that's how we got kind of hung up. David is not going to be around forever. I mean, I'm not talking about his dying, but I'm just saying he one of these days he may get up and go, and we need the creative ability, not so much the construction ability.
Sure. But there's a ton of money for this. There are these grants. So that's all. Do
Well,
we need to pass a
we should-
motion to apply for a grant to get the money to do a combined sign in the
Sure.
park?
But how long do these grants take?
I mean, I think it's like 3 to 6 months. You know, some
Okay.
of them can be pretty quick response,
Okay.
but we could get $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to do, something
Okay.
really nice,
Okay.
right? That would help.
Well, that would, yeah, David, when he originally spoke to us, he said the sign itself is roughly $5,000.
Right.
And then but we still have to pay for construction. That was to get the sign made. But we still have to get installed. We still have to put a walkway in.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. So I think the grant idea, we should definitely do that and tie it into the Weaver House, because they were, in case that house is not there, in case it's not salvageable, and eventually goes, we should have maybe an artist rendition put into the sign with, as if it were there, I'm just, what did that house look like new? Even though we don't have a picture,
Sure.
but we could probably get an artist to make something up. Show what
Sure.
it looked like in the day.
Yeah. And I think it'll be restored. I think certainly if Peter Dessauer is very passionate about it. So I think it's just a matter of time, how long it'll take to get that done. But I walked through it with him. He feels good about it being restored. We just got to keep plugging away. But certainly
Okay.
get the sign will help. The more attention we can draw. So, good. Well, all right. So what's our motion? Is it to approve pursuit of grant funding for a joint sign?
Yeah. And I'll make a motion. I move that we pursue a grant, state, this is federal or state grants, or doesn't make any
Federal.
difference? Federal. I move that we pursue
But I think actually it would be good to,
I'll just leave it open.
Anyway, if you
I'll
can leave
leave
it
it
open, that'd be great.
I'll just move that we pursue a grant to develop a interpretive sign in the, let's just say Women's Park, overlooking Boundary, incorporating the Weaver House and Boundary Street history.
Good. I second your motion.
Discussion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Karen, I just said this. I don't know if you got it. I didn't write it down.
Yeah, I'll go back. If I have any problems with it, I'll
Okay.
I'll go back and listen.
Makes me feel better. Okay, so let's do
So-
that. But also, we probably should be. Well, okay, I guess we could just wait. I mean, it's been going on this long, but I'm just concerned someday we might lose the services of David, we really need that, and he's not going to work just for us asking him. We have to come up with funds for him.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of gratis work for people and they never came.
Yeah.
He would do stuff for them with the understanding that they would take care of him later, and they did not. So,
Well, let's, and also just talking with the, like West Virginia SHPO, even getting more familiar with what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like we're supposed to be doing signs all over the place, like on people's homes. It feels like we should be creating a lot of signs.
Well, yes, I mean, I think we have a charge to do historic interpretation. Signs on homes, there used to be a plaquing program for that. We could talk about that at another meeting, but I think homeowners had to buy the sign. We didn't have a budget for it.
Well, that's something I'm discussing with West Virginia SHPO, but for sure, it feels like maybe these are one of the things I wanted to figure out, because what I've read and what I've heard is, yeah, we should be maybe doing more to interpret private residences with signage. Maybe it's a plaque like they do in like the old times, right? You'd get a brass plaque to put on your home that says historic property, but maybe the modern approach to that is something a little more interpretive and descriptive of the actual property. So I'll take that on myself, maybe to get some additional guidance.
Yeah, let's look at what other municipalities do. I mean, the UK, has the Blue Dot program where they have numbered signs on historic homes. And I don't know what they index to, if it's something online.
Yeah.
It does get clumsy and unwieldy to have big brass narratives bolted to houses, only to find out later that you get some of the dates wrong.
Right.
Or there's always errors that crop in, and so that's always a bit of a nightmare to me.
Oh yeah, no, it's no. I'll tell you firsthand from all the dates I've looked at, just comparing the walking tour to what's in the register. There's, there are huge date variances here. Okay, cool. I was going to give everyone an update. So yeah, I'm continuing to talk with West Virginia SHPO on kind of their ideas of like what we can do to be more effective in raising funding, and that's an ongoing process. I'm waiting for more feedback on that, but it is moving forward. They're having discussions with the state attorney general about what are historic landmark commissions legally authorized to do in terms of receiving funding, soliciting funding, as well as expending funding, like for owners of private residences. Like clearly, if there are homeowners that are in need of financial support, should we have a mechanism for helping them do things like instead of replacing their historic roof with asphalt shingles, do it with historic material? So the answer to that question is yes, we should be able to do this. One of the answers I received was it should probably be a competitive process, and that we should create a competitive process for doing that. Or
yes,
yeah,
if it's not competitive and it's not documented that it's fair with objective criteria, you can get in complications for favoritism.
Yeah.
And nepotism. There's a lot of kind of danger in that. So it really should be done carefully, but that's no reason not to do it or to think about how to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and also we are the only commission that has a bank account. So we do have some fiduciary. We are a place for people to donate property to.
Yeah.
Right.
And that
And fund.
we have
So
the
we already
authority to
have
hold it.
the mechanism. We have the holding mechanism.
Yep.
Do we have access to the town attorney? Because I'm thinking if we're looking at doing something competitive and a homeowner qualifies and we agree that we're going to be helping them, what happens when things don't turn out or someone doesn't come through?
Yeah. Eventually we could
have that.
Yeah, we could get them. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And what happens to the homeowner that we decline when they ask for resources? I think there's a lot of, clarity about, what happens when you lose a competition or when you win, and how all that's above board and transparent.
I can tell you that there's been people in town, not part of the historic landmarks, who are already been thinking about this 2 years ago, or longer. With the Hilltop House Hotel coming, there's going to be funds that would be able to come into this venue. And the big thing is to help people keep their homes and to keep them in a manner that's historic in nature.
Where's this money coming from, Christian?
Eventually, this can come from the historic. I mean, we're looking at tax revenue from the hotel, plus million
Okay,
plus
but-
per year.
Right. But for taxes, not donations.
These aren't
This is not
donations.
earmarked
No,
private money. Okay.
These
Okay.
would be, this would be private money. Well, it would be money coming into the town.
But it's public
just
money.
saying. Yeah,
It's public money. It's not private money like a
Correct.
nonprofit or somebody that didn't have expectations they could dictate how it's spent.
right. They wouldn't.
Okay. Good. Right. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And this would be something that the town council would have to set up. And there's a lot to this, but I was just mentioning that there may be funds coming that would be available for, let's say somebody's roof is failing and they just can't afford it. And maybe we can do something, a loan or something.
Well, right. But this isn't going to be a pass for people to not do maintenance on their house.
I know. That's what's so hard
Right.
about this. This is
That's right. I mean, some of those investments might have to come with liens at time of resale or something
Correct.
like that, where you get the money back.
Yeah. Yeah, matter of fact, we'd probably have to see there's some other municipalities that probably have some mechanism like this. I
Yes.
doubt in West Virginia, but some other state.
Well, yeah, Jefferson County they've even got, they're doing more than most, but, they've also got insurance for themselves for some of these issues like Karen mentioned, dealing with, whatever kind of fallout that can come, right, from being sued. So I think Meredith is, I can't remember her last name. It starts with a D, but she's the head of the CLGs at West Virginia SHPO. And just through like the challenges we were dealing with the Weaver House, she's really rolling up her sleeves to figure out some of the answers to this question at a state level for us. So she's working on that. So I wanted you guys to know that. So hopefully,
Yeah, and if you do talk to her, ask her about self-funding through the town itself.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think what apparently the, town council is supposed to have the ability to appropriate funding to us. For example, hotel motel tax was mentioned.
Mhm.
So yeah,
No.
and
No, that's not there. No.
yeah. Well, and that's, if there's no money coming through, then, can we raise the money to do something?
Yeah.
Right. And I know
Yep.
we can't. I mean, hey, this is Harper's Ferry. It's not just the most important site in West Virginia. It's, nationally up there in a running.
Yeah.
And we've got hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. I think a lot of people, if they knew that we had interesting things to make the town better that we're working on, and would appreciate the support that I know there are a lot of people, my family included, who live elsewhere who would financially support our projects. So just thinking about what we can do to raise awareness and get the money to do more things.
And there's another thing too, we should try to coordinate more with the Harpers Ferry Bolivar Historic Foundation.
For sure.
And kind of work a little bit in that area to help them, but they can help us. And
yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
there's gonna be two ships in the night. We should be kind of two ships coming together, helping each other.
I agree. We gotta, let's figure that out too. So let's see. The last thing, I think basically I already showed you guys. I've got other stuff that I could share. Like I'm continuously collecting information into the Google Drive on all kinds of topics related to the town history. But I think the map is probably the most interesting and helpful in terms of the potential that I think it could have for people, like to really help them understand the town history. So I'll keep working on that, next time, and I'll share that. I'll start sharing that with you guys, so you can just take a look and share your thoughts on that, and then maybe present it more formally next time we get together. But I guess that was all I had for new business. Was there anything else we had to discuss?
Nothing from me.
Nothing.
Okay, then in terms of old business, we do have our annual report to submit to the West Virginia SHPO, and I think the only thing that I'm missing from that is the kind of resume from Tommy that they want to see, or at least his letter that he submitted to the mayor. So I can follow up with him on that and just include that. And then I think everybody had at least given a look to that. Does anybody else have any other edits for our annual report?
Well.
Okay. And then the Danvers Archives. It's our last one. Christian, I think last time we discussed this, you had mentioned that that's on some kind of to-do list for digitization.
Yeah, well, that would be actually the whole town digitization of its records, more than just these records. But I've been giving some thought to this. We've been batting it around for a long time. I think we should just find someone, maybe the local librarian or something can come down here and look at what we have and, give us an assessment of, what we might need. We haven't had anybody like that look at these records.
You mean for what, like historic value or what?
Yeah, they would have some idea, and a librarian would have a good. That was just a suggestion. A librarian. I mean, it could be someone else. I remember a couple of years ago when Jay Premack was brought it up. He knew somebody, but it didn't come through. So I'm just trying to get somebody to look at it, and even then we could see whether, this doesn't need that much, we could do, this could be done, or, give us some sort of a report on what their recommendation is.
You could also look at I don't know if Shepherdstown has a degree when it comes to things like history and archives, but West Virginia University students as well. This could be a great project for a student to take on, and that would also defray some costs for us as a town.
Yeah. I don't have any connection with the Shepherd University, but if you do, Karen, that might be a good thing to.
I was talking to the main guy there. They've got a Civil War Studies program, which basically covers everything. I was talking with him about the Weaver House, and he's got a program there, and he can put students on projects. So it'd be worth checking in with him. He was willing to support, the Weaver House, put a group of students on that to do either research or just on-site work. So maybe the archives would be something that would be interesting to them as well.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to get going on it. I mean, we've been talking about it a long time. He's passed away way back.
How many boxes of stuff is it?
I think it's 2 or 3.
Okay, just 2 or 3 like file boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was rooms and stuff, but I believe that's all it is. It's not very much.
Yeah. Well, I'm tempted. I mean, spend any free time I get, I've just been trying to work on the register. Otherwise, I'd go down there and take pictures myself.
That's why I was suggesting we get maybe a librarian in here. We have a librarian. We support the library with funds every year. Maybe they can come down here and look at it for us and give us an assessment. If anybody knows something about documents, it would be a librarian. And if they say this is really significant, good to know. And then we'll take it up the ladder, and maybe more a historian looks at it. And
well, I'll tell you, I think I can get one of the National Park Service museum people to come take a look.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
let me put in a phone call
Yeah, that would be Patty. Patty, I believe, knows where it is in the town hall, and she would be a good contact,
Okay.
Patty Morris, for that.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I'll take that as my to-do for next time.
Okay.
So I think we're at the end of the list, guys.
Yeah.
I did have an update on the light bulb.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we got the one installed on the corner of Putnam and Franklin. So if you want to drive by and take a look, it does have a much broader. I'm trying to think of the word tonight. My brain is dead. But it puts out a little bit brighter light. The lumens are higher, and it has a wider breadth of where the light comes out. It looks really nice. I do like this bulb a lot. Now, the gentleman, he showed me the packaging of it, so I was like comparing the lumens. He went to put the second one in, which I think might have been maybe close to Steve's place, but he said that the bulb did not light. So I physically have that bulb, and I'm going to bring that down to maybe I'll bring that down to Patty tomorrow in case guys can return that. So, but it is a nice bulb, nice light. If you guys want
you saying this was the bulb like yours that he put in?
They came by Saturday to put in a new bulb. I think it's the ones that you bought too, Christian.
Yeah, I did.
You did. Okay,
I bought
so
three actually. I'm still waiting for the third one. They're back ordered. It's back ordered.
Okay, so he put in the one here is one of those bulbs. The one on Franklin and Putnam is one of those two bulbs. The second bulb, when he went to the second location to put it in, it did not light up. So he used the old bulb that was here, put it in there, and I have that bulb that's on functioning.
Bring it over. I need it. I'm gonna have it put in. We've got some other locations.
Okay.
Or is the bulb not working? Or is the bulb blown out?
Yeah.
And that's what he said. It did not light. So he's not sure if it may be something in delivery, but he said it did not light at all when he went to go put it in. So.
Yeah, I could probably get that returned. They're pretty expensive. They cost us $30-some a bulb.
Okay.
Yeah, they ought to change it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get that to town hall.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, that sounds great, guys. Look, we finished in less than 90 minutes, so that's not too bad. And we'll keep trying to get down to maybe 60 minutes for these meetings, right? So I guess it's a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Well, hey, thanks everyone for joining, and hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.